Hello and welcome to It's Your Business with Mario Toneguzzi. Joining me today is Stephen Flynn, who is a partner with Anderson Tax based out of Vancouver. Thanks for joining us today, Stephen.
Well, good afternoon, Mario. Good to be with you today.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Canadians owning U.S. properties, real estate, homes particularly. Um, are you finding because of the COVID circumstances and the situation that's been presented these days that more Canadians are now looking at selling their U.S. properties?
Well, we have, Mario, seen a big increase of inquiries, with clients, with prospects, and even with friends and family members who, and I think it's kind of on two sides of the border. I think Canadians are looking at their desire to travel to the U.S., the concerns with coming back and forth, and the quarantine rules, the concerns with health and with health and safety in the U.S. I think I've heard some people mention health insurance is going to be problematic to obtain, and frankly, a lack of desire to spend significant time in the U.S. And so, there's a desire to sell. I think on the other side, when I've talked to some colleagues in the U.S., there seems to be an overheated housing market in places like Phoenix and Palm Springs, where people are leaving the major centers, Los Angeles, San Francisco, leaving Florida, trying to relocate to a cheaper market where they can still do their job, they can work remotely. So there's this kind of combination of motivated sellers and motivated buyers that we see a number of people trying to sell properties.
Okay, so if you're an owner of property in the States, you're Canadian, you're owner of a property, what are the implications in terms of taxes, I guess, if you decide to sell?
Sure. So people have to understand that when you sell U.S. real property, whether it's an apartment or a house or a condo, or even if it's a timeshare, you're subject to U.S. federal and perhaps state income tax on that sale. And that may be something that a lot of Canadians have never experienced before and don't understand or don't realize. And so that's often the question we get is, well, I'm going to sell, like, what do I do next? And how do I go through the process? And that's something in Anderson Tax, we see quite often and work with a lot of our clients.
Okay, then do you think a lot of people just aren't aware of a lot of the stuff that is involved in a sale?
I think they can be. I think a lot of people, if they buy commercial property or if they're buying rental property and they rent it out, they would perhaps understand that they've got to file annual tax returns and notify the IRS and state governments. But a lot of people, when they buy that second home and it's a vacation home and it's always been a personal use home and they've never had to do anything, well, now they start getting asked questions. What is your U.S. tax for identification number? Did you know that there's withholding tax on sale? And there could be a bit of kind of anxiety and frustration. What we can do is kind of work them through that to say, here are the things you need to know when you sell, and here are the things you're going to have to do, kind of next year when it comes time to think about your personal tax returns. You've got this extra layer now when you sell property, is that you may have a capital gain in the U.S. and you're going to have some disclosure and some capital gains tax perhaps to pay in Canada.
Okay. The only other question I had for you, Stephen, is when you look into the future, like where do you see this going? For the last number of years, especially in Alberta and in British Columbia, see a lot of people, Canadians, buying properties in the States, residential properties. Do you think once the COVID thing is done with, that that market will still be there?
Well, you do see a lot of kind of ebbs and flows in the market, certainly. If you think back kind of 8, 10 years ago, in around that time when the U.S. housing market collapsed, you had that perfect storm when the Canadian dollar was at par, when there was a big inventory of U.S. homes for sale, and interest rates were low, and so people were buying. Now you got this thing that's happening the other way with people trying to sell. I think when you look in the future, Canadians always have that desire to travel, to get out of Canada when the weather's not so good, to spend some time in the sun. So it'll I guess you think it would come back. I think the biggest thing people understand from a tax perspective is anytime you're going through that kind of transaction, that you got a couple different jurisdictions that are looking at you. You got the U.S. federal government. If you're in a place like Arizona or California or other states, you may have state tax on the sale. But most importantly, Canada is also going to look at that. When you live in Canada, if you've got a gain on the property, you've got to pay Canadian tax. You've got a gain in U.S., on your U.S. currency, and you got perhaps a foreign exchange gain when you sell, when you convert it into Canadian dollars.
Yeah. Okay then. Well, thanks a lot, Stephen, for joining us today.
Mario, hey, great to talk to you today.
Okay, that was Stephen Flynn, who is a partner with Anderson Tax based in Vancouver. This has been It's Your Business with Mario Toneguzzi. Thanks for joining us today.